So, then I woke up. Yep, there I was, sitting in a chair, and I woke up. The end of 1998 was a challenging time for the Hausma-Weiss family. We lived in Cincinnati, Natalie and I, and Abraham. He was a baby. You don't remember. But I was finishing up rabbinical school. I was taking a lot of classes. I was writing a thesis. And I was enrolled in a program called Clinical Pastoral Education, a program that seeks to train clergy to be better at pastoring, at serving people in the hospital, laboratories, clinics, etc., who are ill. And it includes hospital stays overnight. It includes periods where we work like 4-hour shifts over the course maybe 3 times a week. And it also includes group work amongst our peers. And at the time, I had a really huge load. And then on top of that, we learned that our baby son had to have neurosurgery. So at this period of time, Abraham, was at the Children's Hospital in Cincinnati. But my work in the bone marrow transplant unit for my clinical pastoral education rounds was at the Jewish hospital. And so I was, for a period of time, going back and forth between the 2 hospitals. And I had started working in the bone marrow transplant unit, and I was really a novice to this entire world. And fortunately today, unfortunately back then, the bone marrow transplant process was so rigorous and so challenging. And I got to know how it worked. There was one in particular patient that I had grown a bit closer to because she started her treatments at the same time as I started my rounds. And so I always visited her, and we got to know each other a little bit. Mostly, I learned about her because that's the appropriate way we serve people when they are ill. I am the professional, or at least professional. I had 3 months under my belt. And this is the patient who needed me to hear her, listen to her, support her. Well, on one particular day, going back and forth between the hospitals and managing all these different things, I went and visited her, amongst others. And I was exhausted, trying to just get through another day, worried and concerned about so many different things. I went into her room. Beforehand, I had to fully gown up, cover up everything to protect her. Sat down in the chair. And then I woke up. In the chair, with my patient in front of me, fully gowned, maybe dribbling a little bit. And I was so frightened. I was so scared. I was sure this was it. The hospital administrator was going to come in right there and say, "You're fired, get out of here." I was so upset. And immediately, I started apologizing. I told her, "I'm so sorry. Please, this is terrible." And I was fumbling. And she said to me, "Rabbi." I told her I wasn't a rabbi yet. She said, "You're a rabbi. I need you to be a rabbi. I need a rabbi, so I need you to be a rabbi." Okay. "Rabbi, it's okay. It's fine. I'm glad it happened. What? You're glad it happened? She said, I am a very busy person. Truth is, I don't have time for cancer. But apparently it has time for me. But usually I'm running from place to place, thing to thing, and I'm taking care of so many people and so many things. For the last 5 weeks, I haven't been able to do anything for anybody. So when you fell asleep talking to me, I knew I could do this for you. I could give you this time because I don't have anywhere to go. This was a moment that ever since defined chesed and chen. Chesed is kindness, and chen is grace. Tomorrow morning, during the Torah service, we will chant these words. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed V'Emet, Notzar Chesed La'alafim, No Se'avon V'Afesha V'Chata V'Nakeh. Adonai, Adonai, God compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in kindness and faithfulness, extending kindness to the 1,000th generation, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin. Maimonides called these the 13 attributes. They are the attributes by which God describes God's self to Moses, for Moses to describe God's self to the people of Israel following the sin of the golden calf. That in this moment, when they had acted out and they had broken all sorts of laws they knew of and laws that they didn't, in this moment, they needed to seek connection, wholeness once again. And God describes God's self as being this being of compassion, of righteousness, of grace, and particularly of chesed, of kindness. So chesed is this word that we often translate as kindness, but I don't think we usually understand what it means. Chesed, according to the rabbinic tradition, is kindness that is undeserved. That when someone does an act of kindness, like our tradition teaches, God does for us, is bringing us to life, being alive. It is an act of kindness for which we could never have earned. No matter how great a human being you are in this world, no matter how influential you are in this world right now, you did nothing to earn your life. There's nothing that you did to make it possible to be alive. Years ago, I talked about the miracle of being alive. Now, do you know that the chances of being alive, they're so crazily difficult to imagine that I or you would exist in this manifestation, in this particular, let me tell you the chances. The chances of you being you are 400 quadrillion to the 150th power, or 10 to the 2,640,000th power, which is equal to approximately the number of the atoms in the universe, which is 10 to the 80th. Or if these numbers don't work for you, here is the probability of you being born. It's the probability of 2.5 million people getting together, each to play a game of dice with trillion-sided dice, and they all come up with the same number. That is the chance of you being you in this world. So whether you understand God as the deity, the creator, or you as a creation of the cosmos, evolution, doesn't matter. You being you is a gift to the universe and to yourself for which you could never have done anything to earn. Imagine if this guided our lives more often than it doesn't. Perhaps we would find that we are better able to channel the attributes that we describe God with, like grace and kindness and compassion. Think about what could have happened in that moment with my patient. She could have kicked me out. She could have taken it personally. She could have called my supervisor. She could have done any number of things, but instead, she said, "This isn't about me. And this is a human being who needs a nap. And I can give it to him." How often we make other people's stuff our problem. I know that the High Holy Days is about holding ourselves accountable for the actions we inflict on others. And I know the focus gets to the forgiveness piece once the person's done the work to then come to us and say, "Here's what I did. I'm sorry. I've done this and this and this to try to fix what I did. Now will you forgive me?" That's the work of teshuvah, of repentance. But I want to focus for a moment on the other side of teshuvah, the one who is hurt. Everybody has the right to be hurt. Everybody has the right to feel something that's been inflicted upon them. But can we get better at not throwing fuel on the fire? Can we get a little bit less reactive when we are hurt? Now, I know we love our righteous indignation. It's delicious, isn't it? When we know we're right, we knew we were right yesterday, life proved us to be right, and we get to say what? Those great 4 words. I told you so. Oh! It almost never happens to me. But it is a moment that sometimes we just can't resist. However, we can. We always have a choice. Now, this doesn't mean that we have to just accept what's being dumped on us. This doesn't mean that we have to just turn the other cheek. That's not what I'm suggesting. But it does mean, could I try a different response? Could I get quiet? Could I get curious? Or could I at least not throw fuel on the fire and turn it into a bonfire that's not just about the burning issue in this moment, but hey, let's bring yesterday and last year and 20 years ago and throw it on the heap and then go, whoa, look at that fire. What do we have in the end? We have a lot of burnt stuff. We have a lot of burnt ground. And it's difficult to rebuild with burnt stuff. So how do we get there? Well, I think it's about our own work. Again, I'm not saying that we shouldn't protect ourselves. And if we find ourselves regularly in this kind of dysfunctional back and forth with another person, maybe we have to say, you know what? We can't spend as much time together. But can we work on not making it worse? Can we remind ourselves that all of us, every single one of us, is created in the image of God? And that we are meant to channel those attributes of God. That God says, hey, when you're coming back towards me, think of me as this, filled with grace and compassion, willing to make space for you to fall and falter, for not taking it personally. Because more often than not, what someone else is doing, it's not about us. Call to mind one thing, one struggle with one person right now. Someone that you are wringing your heart over, who pushes your buttons, whatever it is. And now, see if you can breathe space between you and that person. Don't hold them so tight, but let them go and give space. See if you can lengthen your fuse before blowing up, before reacting. And ask, what is this about? Now, I'm going to suggest something that I'm sure is going to rub people the wrong way. That I'm not sure we need more bravery or courage. I'm not sure we need more strength or endurance in our relationships nearly as much as we might need a heck of a lot more vulnerability, openness, maybe even innocence, and maybe, dare I say, gullibility. Maybe we need to be giving others more of the benefit of the doubt. Because the conflict and the struggle will only end in destruction. But if we could play a part in bringing greater peace, maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. But we know I didn't make it worse. Maybe it's time to let down our guard. Maybe it's time to lean into the discomfort. Some of you, I'm sure, are familiar that Leonard Cohen died relatively recently. And a lot of us call him Rav Leonard Cohen. He wrote and sang, "Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." Let's allow for more cracks in our foundations. Let's allow for a little bit less fortitude and a lot more openness. Maybe we'll make the world a better place, but at least we won't make it worse.